Okay, Jim, we can start.
Oh, okay. Welcome once again to this month, this month's edition of AARP Massachusetts Fraud Talk Tuesdays. We're here on the second Tuesday of each month from 12 to 12:30, where we discuss a different scam and how you can protect yourself and your family from becoming victimized. My name is Jim Aldred, a volunteer with AARP, and our guest today is Teresa Chaklos. She's also a volunteer with AARP Massachusetts Speakers Bureau. Now, if you've been victimized by a scammer, actually, I prefer to call them criminals. It's because that's what they are. The biggest question is, what steps do we need to take to protect ourselves and our bank accounts from my personal information from going forward, and how do I find the support that I need? Teresa is going to provide us with the 10 specific steps and give us a list of resources to help you move forward if you or a loved one has been victimized by fraud or a scam. You may have joined us today with questions already in mind, and if you have, please put them in the question and answer at the bottom of the screen. Or if they come up during the presentation, put them into the Q&A also. This session is being recorded, and you'll receive a copy of this recording to share with friends and family and friends and family. And at the end of this presentation, we will share a page with links to a number of resources, and you will also receive a copy of that as well. So, Teresa, thanks for being here. And where do we begin with this conversation?
Thanks, Jim. So we'll begin with a new AARP report has found that a stunning 42% of American adults have had a personal experience with fraud. The survey looked at two groups, those ages 19 to 49 and those aged 50 and older. Both groups are about as likely to have had money stolen due to fraud or sensitive information stolen and used fraudulently. But older adults on average lose more money to scams than their younger counterparts. So I also think stories are a good way to begin any conversation about fraud. So here's one. Last December, Pat Holden, 76, of El Cajon, California, received what appeared to be an email from Amazon offering a 3-month free membership to Amazon Prime, which provides free shipping on eligible items, among other perks. Holden, a former official with the Better Business Bureau, normally is wary of such unsolicited pitches, but the high-quality graphics in the email looked authentic and the offer was attractive. I had just thought about getting Prime, Holden recalled, so I jumped on it, which you should never do. She filled out and submitted the application, including her credit card number. But when she didn't receive an email acknowledgement, she became suspicious. When she pulled up the original offer, she saw that it had not come from an Amazon address. Many of us might begin to panic, but Holden kept her cool. She called Amazon and confirmed that the offer had not come from them. They told Holden she had been scammed and that she should call her bank, and Holden did exactly that. Bank officials agreed to put a hold on any suspicious transactions on her credit card. And thanks to Holden's immediate action, she didn't lose any money to the criminals. Online safety and anti-scam experts wish more Americans would respond to scams just as quickly, as fraud has not only become an epidemic, but it's increasingly sophisticated and financially devastating. As soon as you realize you've experienced a scam, it's crucial to take certain steps to prevent money loss and identity theft in its aftermath.
Teresa, I think that each of us knows someone who's been victimized by a scam, excuse me, or a fraudulent offer. And the part of Pat Holden's story that surprised me was that she worked for the Better Business Bureau, which goes to prove that it isn't who you are, but how you are at the time of contact, your mental state. Can you talk about why it's so easy for us to fall for scam?
Sure. I mean, like you said, it's how you are at the time of contact. What is your emotional state? Are you excited that you're getting a great deal? Or are you afraid that a loved one is in trouble? Or your bank account has been compromised, or are you anxious that you're being threatened? A heightened emotional state, one where you're reacting emotionally, not logically, is exactly where the criminal wants you to be. It's what they call getting you under the ether. It can happen in a minute when you get an email, a text, or a phone call about a great offer like Pat Holden experienced. You can be asked to click on a link or a picture or asked to provide personal information. Or with romance scams, it could take weeks or months to get you under the ether. This is a very powerful and effective tool that scammers use.
One of the things Pat did was to act immediately to protect herself. She didn't waste any time. What are the 10 steps that we need to take if we or a loved one find ourselves that we've been victimized?
So we have advice from a number of experts. So the first thing to do is immediately cut off communication with the scammer. You might be tempted to keep corresponding with the criminal, hoping you can persuade them to return your money or that they'll let slip some information that will help law enforcement catch them. But scam prevention experts say continued communication is unlikely to help. Michael Brummer, a fraud expert and head of global data breach resolution at Experian, the credit reporting company, says, don't engage any further with the scammer under any circumstances. There's nothing good that would come out of that. And number two is notify your bank and credit card companies. Your first two calls should be to your bank and your credit card company, says Amy Nofziger, Director of Victim Support for the AARP Fraud Watch Network. If scammers have already gained access to your account, the bank can change your account number to deny them further access. You'll want to check your recent credit card or debit card transactions and tell your financial institutions if you spot any fraudulent changes. The Federal Trade Commission says, ask them to reverse the transaction and give you your money back. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's Office for Older Americans suggests that you also contact anyone else who made a payment to a scammer on your behalf, such as a wire transfer service or a gift card company. Ask them to stop payment and see if you can get your money back. It may be a long shot at best, she says, but it's worth a try.
Now, I've heard that the favorite payment methods used by criminals are wire transfers, gift cards, cryptocurrency, or peer-to-peer apps like Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, and Apple Wallet. Is this correct?
You're right, Jim, because these payment methods are like sending cash. The peer-to-peer apps you mentioned are designed to send money between friends and relatives, not to businesses or people you don't know. Sending money using these apps or wire transfers, gift cards, cryptocurrency, well, once the money's gone, it's gone. And the chance of getting the money back is rare. So our third thing you should do is change your passwords. Darius Kingsley, head of consumer banking practices at JP Morgan Chase & Company, recommends that you change your passwords as a precaution and don't stop with just the financial accounts. You should also change password for your major online retailer accounts and your personal email account. He recommends that you lock those down by changing them very quickly. We all have many passwords that we need to keep track of, so you might consider using a password manager. And number four is to focus on the documents that are part of the scam. Gather evidence of fraudulent transactions and communications with scammers and any information that might possibly help them to identify the criminals. If you have an identity theft insurance policy, having this sort of information available is especially crucial. Josh Planos, Vice President of Communications and Public Relations for the Better Business Bureau, says, you want to make sure that you have all your receipts and documentations in one place. Whatever information you're able to gather will help investigators and may even improve your chances of recovering money that you've lost.
So how about reporting the scam? Should we, and who do we report it to?
Reporting the scam is number 5 on the list. It's recommended that you file a police report with your local police department to document the scam. Sometimes local police may seem to be reluctant to take the report, and there are 3 places to report the scam. First, you should also report scams to the Federal Trade Commission at reportfraud.ftc.gov. The agency shares information with more than 2,800 law enforcement agencies. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, or IC3.gov, is another reporting agency. You should also report it to the AARP Fraud Watch Hotline. It's a free resource for anyone, regardless of whether or not you're an AARP member. Trained fraud specialists and volunteers field thousands of calls each month, and they can help you work through what you should do next to keep you, your family, and your finances safe. And you can reach out to the AARP Fraud Watch helpline at 877-908-3360 from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. The links to these resources will be on the resource slide and that will send all of you. Unless law enforcement knows about a scam, they can't combat it. So number 6 is protect your credit. Experts suggest that you download a free copy of your credit report via the government-authorized website, annualcreditreport.com, and scrutinize it carefully for anything that doesn't look right. You should also consider placing a fraud alert on your credit report, which forces creditors to take additional steps to verify that the person who wants to open an account is you. Or you can simply put a security freeze on your credit, which prevents new creditors from accessing your file at all unless you unfreeze it. We also have a link to how to set a credit alert or a credit freeze on the resource slide. Number 7 is remain vigilant. It's important to keep a close eye on your financial accounts for signs of intrusion or identity theft over the long term. You should do a little reconnaissance. Have you seen strange statements, or have you been getting different bills or any strange mail or email? If you signed up for an identity theft protection service or use a free service such as the nonprofit Identity Theft Resource Center, you can seek help from them on how to mitigate the risk. Number 8 is share your experience with someone you trust. Emotional support from a trusted person can be a big help. AARP conducts virtual support sessions where attendees can participate in discussions led by one or more trained peer facilitators. These sessions provide what is often lacking when someone reports being victimized by a scam. These sessions, what you feel sometimes when you're victimized is a lack of respect, support, or empathy. And that's what these sessions provide. Healing begins when someone starts telling their story. Support sessions are 60 minutes long, and those attending can interact or just listen. Some people attend once, some attend multiple times. Others return several weeks or months after their first session. There's no limit to the number of sessions you can attend, and it's a safe space. Number 9 is try not to blame yourself. Remember that scams are crimes. Many are perpetrated by organized crime rings, and they can and do happen to anyone, regardless of age, race, gender, education, or socioeconomic status. So don't blame yourself. Too often we feel ashamed and don't report these crimes, or we try to hide them from loved ones. The more information that law enforcement has, the better they can target their investigations and stop the perpetrators. And if you know someone who has been scammed, Don't blame them. It's not their fault.
Well, Teresa, what's the final thing that's on your list?
The final thing is to spread the word about scams. Education, awareness, information is our best line of defense. Teaching others can not only help you rebuild confidence and trust, says the expert, but also helps avoid scams. For many fraud victims, the financial toll is only part of the story. Nearly 2 of 3 victims suffer a significant health or emotional impact. Remember to address this reality. The AARP Fraud Watch Network, as we mentioned earlier, developed a free support program to provide emotional support for people affected by fraud. It features small groups whose participants are led in discussion by one or more trained peer facilitators. These online hour-long sessions help to reestablish that trust, integrate your experience, and build back your resilience despite a difficult and painful occurrence. Discussions are confidential, and you are welcome to attend one session or several. It's your choice. We have a link to the resource. We have a link to this on the resource slide where you can learn more about the free program and register. And remember, you are not alone.
Okay, thank you for that. Now let's check for questions. Let's bring in Dennis. Dennis, you there?
I am.
Okay.
Let me open the questions. The first is a comment. Let me scroll up here, and it says, my gosh, I have to scroll. We have a number of questions here. It says, equally in terms of password protection, are those peer-to-peer apps, should we also consider, now this is, they said MFA/2FA. I'm not sure what that is. But all these peer-to-peer support, even things like Apple Wallet. I did a presentation not too long ago where somebody had hacked into their Apple Wallet and started to transfer funds from there. So you have to be very vigilant of all the apps that you use, including things like Apple Wallet. And there's another comment. It says, is it worth highlighting that Password Manager can also store legal documents such as trusts, wills, and those types of things? I wasn't aware that the Password Manager can. Haven't used a Password Manager yet. I'm getting one, but there's something you should really consider to keep yourself safe.
Yeah, I have an app on my phone. It's not necessarily a password manager, but it's a way that I store all my passwords. And then it also has a function for notes and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, you can't remember them all, but you do need to have several different passwords.
Yeah. Someone asked a question, can AARP send links to federal agencies and organizations to contact relative to fraud? When we bring up the slide at the end, there are a number of links where you can report. And reporting is important, very important. If there's any chance of getting any financial restitution, you have to have a police report. We've heard lots of stories where people go into the police station and try to submit the report, and they'll say, well, hey, you gave them the money. You didn't give them anything. It was stolen from you. People talk about losing money. You didn't lose it. You don't know where it is. Somebody has stolen it from you. So get a police report done. And you have to be assertive, perhaps not aggressive, but certainly assertive to make sure you get that report. That's going to be your one chance if there is any restitution later on. You need to prove all this.
Somebody in the Q&A asked, I think they were asking whether we're going to have the link for the resources or the AARP, that discussion support group, and we will provide links for all of that.
We will, indeed. Okay, please, we will send the PowerPoint to all attendees. The resources, let me check. Slides 2. Yes, let's see. Well, actually, let me share the slides now. Let me share that slide and we can talk about what's on it.
The resource slide, right?
Resource slide, right? And slide and slideshow and from beginning. So the first thing on the top left is the link to report fraud to the FBI. Unless law enforcement knows the kind of fraud that's being perpetrated and to what extent, they really don't know what to do. And that's where we are important in terms of reporting this. The next one is the AARP fraud victim support. And it is, I've sat in on two of them. One as a victim, and two, just to understand how the victim support group works. And they are very empowering. The fact that you've had money stolen, that is in itself a horrible loss. But sometimes even worse than that is the emotional trauma you go through, the lack of self-confidence. And this helps you to restore your self-confidence and work with the peer group to become better and to heal. And as I say, sometimes with either family or friends or even law enforcement, the empathy and support isn't always there. And you're going to get that through the support group.
And you know, Dennis, just to interrupt you for a second, sometimes when we realize that we're not the only one that something has happened to, that in and of itself can make you feel, you know, so much stronger that, okay, you know, I'm not, you know, I'm not the only one that's experienced this because I did something wrong or something like that. It can happen to anybody.
And as you mentioned, Teresa, telling your story is very important to the healing process, especially if you're receiving support and empathy as you're doing this. The annual creditreport.com is a place where you can check on your credit to make sure that no one is looking at it and trying to open up anything in your name. Below that, we have how and when to check your credit and how to freeze your credit. So if that link, you open up that link, it'll take you to resources of how you can actually freeze your credit. I have frozen mine. And when I went to get a new laptop a couple of years ago, they said, we can give you a 10% discount on the laptop if you open up a Best Buy charge account. And I said, I can't do that because I had frozen my credit. And I wasn't going, the 10% at that point wasn't that worth that much to me. Top right, the Federal Trade Commission is another place where you should report. Again, if they don't know about the scams that are going on, they can't do much to prevent them and to educate everybody that this fraud is out there. The Fraud Watch Network is a website developed by AARP, and it has an amazing amount of articles and information updated on a regular basis. It keeps track of what the newest scams are and provides you information because, as Teresa said, education, information, and awareness is the key to keeping us safe. Identity Theft Resource Center is, Teresa mentioned, and you can log on there and find information. And links to links to previous Fraud Talk Tuesdays. As Jim said, we do this the second Tuesday of every month, and we record these. And if you weren't able to attend previous ones, you can click on there and listen to the ones that have been recorded. And if you want to report a scam or just get some information, you can call the AARP Fraud Watch helpline. Every time somebody reports a scam, they have a database that they send to the FBI and to the FTC. And that helps build their information about the kinds of scams that are out there. And at the very bottom, we ask you if you have been a victim of a scam and would like to share your story either on a Fraud Talk Tuesday or with one of our speakers for the Speakers Bureau, you can call and contact Polly Menendez, and there is her email address. One of the most powerful things, as Teresa said, starting out, a good place to start any conversation is with a story. and you're probably not the only one that has experienced. It takes a lot of strength to come forward and admit that you've been victimized. That's how I got involved with the Fraud Watch helpline. It happened about 12 years ago with me, and it took me 3 months before I could admit to anybody that I had been victimized. So it's a process. And the first time you say it doesn't help heal you. It's telling the story again and again. Let me stop sharing. We're going to send this slide to you, and let me stop sharing this and see if we've had any other questions that have come in.
Someone asked a question about the calling into the AARP Fraud Watch hotline or helpline.
Helpline.
When people first call in, what type of questions or information are the volunteers who answer the calls asking the people who call in?
I am so glad you asked. There's 160 volunteers across 30 states, and they receive 100,000 calls a year. When you call, they're going to triage the call. If you're just looking for information, they're going to send you to one place. If you actually have been victimized, and especially if you've lost money, they're going to send you to another section, and they're going to ask you a few questions to get a sense of what the fraud was all about. They put it into a database, and then volunteers check the database, and they will call you within 24 hours, oftentimes the same day. And they're going to help you, and calls last about 30 minutes. So it's not, let's get this over quick. They are very concerned. As a matter of fact, one of our volunteers in Massachusetts is a volunteer on the helpline. And the stories that she has told us have been inspiring to hear how people, how they've been victimized and how the helpline helps them to recover. Are they going to get your money back? Probably not, but they're going to help you. What should I take steps to keep myself and my information and financial information safe going forward? So
when someone first calls in, it sounds like what's happening is a sort of a triage type of thing where they're and then they where they're kind of fielding the calls and then sending it to a department that can best help them, and then they get a call back. Is that
yes,
right?
Yes, yeah. And one of the things Alice sometimes tells us, she says, when I talk to people, she says, some people say, I was really, really pretty up on scams. I knew a lot about scams. I just didn't know about that one. Because there are just so many different ways that they can tweak a scam and get you off guard.
Someone's asking about, is there a statute of limitation on fraud reporting?
That I don't know.
I would imagine the sooner
you could call the
report
Fraud
it, the
Watch
better.
helpline, and I'm sure they would know. And it may depend on what state you're in also.
Yeah. But wouldn't you think the sooner you report it, the better? As soon as
Exactly.
you realize it.
The sooner you report it, the better.
Yeah, because we might not realize it right away.
Right, exactly. Okay, what statute of limitations? Okay.
I think
Dennis,
we
there were
got all the
there were a
questions.
couple of raised hands. Did you get to them?
Pardon me?
There were several raised hands. Did you speak to them
Raised hands.
at the very top of the list?
It looks like we have covered most of the questions. I really would have you take a look. One, listen to the recording again. And number two, take a look at the resource slide that we're going to send you and click on those links to find more information. Fraud is always evolving, and that's why the Fraud Watch helpline, Fraud Watch Network website keeps up to date with all the different scams and fraud that are out there, so you can keep informed.
Yeah, I see two hands were raised, but I don't know that you can only see it in the Q&A. So if you do have a question, if you could just type it in real quick, that would be helpful.
I don't see any more, but we'll give him another minute to see if there's any other questions.
The other thing I do is I go online and I check my accounts every day just to make sure.
Jim, you want to finish up with the final comments?
I suppose I could do that. Excuse me, lost my voice in the absence. Well, next month's Fraud Talk Tuesday with Medicare open enrollments on the horizon, we'll discuss health insurance and Medicare scams and provide advice for Medicare's beneficiaries and their families. So we hope that you'll join us on September 10th, and thank you for joining us today. And remember, if you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, everybody.